Alright, hey everybody. So it's been a little while since I recorded a video, but I wanted to show you a new tool I've been working on called LearnChain. It's a terminal application. It basically works as a companion for vibe coding tools like Codex CLI or Claude Code. And I've been doing a lot of work with those tools recently, and one thing I realized is, while you're vibe coding, you might be reviewing code and you might be doing kind of the things you need to stay in touch with the code base, and but you still might kind of lose touch a little bit, or you might get lazy. So I developed this tool here that, like I said, can kind of run in tandem. And what it does is it reads your logs as you're working, as you're vibe coding, and you can run it at any time to basically give you a quiz on what you're doing. So it kind of keeps you in touch and kind of surfaces any issues where you might think, might ask you a question about, one of the coding tools you just used, one of the APIs possibly, that you may not actually understand as deeply as you thought. So I've definitely found it helpful. I open sourced the tool, so I hope you'll find it helpful as well. You can use it, install it. I'd love for any feature requests or pull requests that come in to help improve it, because I'm using this in my kind of day-to-day workflow, and I'd be very interested if others found it helpful as well. So yeah, just wanted to give you a quick rundown of how it works and how I'm using it. So this is LearnChain. I'll drop a link in the video description so you have an easy access to it. You can install it very easily, just globally with npm. Works across Mac OS, Linux, and Windows. So let's switch over here to the code. And so here it is. Let me actually, to demonstrate this, I think one of the best ways to demonstrate it might be to actually implement a new feature and then watch how we're able to generate a quiz based on that. So I'll go in the Codex here, and I'll one of the features I've been wanting to add, and hopefully will be out soon, is a way to kind of track your progress. And in order to do that, we'll need to actually track the knowledge responses that come back from the LM that's kind of parsing through your logs. So let's go ahead here and say, please add a SQLite database to track knowledge responses from manager. We'll let that go ahead and work for a minute, and then we'll take a look at the logs that get generated by Codex and how LearnChain will kind of pull that information into a quiz. Alright, so that finished, and I pulled up the window right here just to show you where we're going to be looking for these logs down here. So both Claude Code and Codex CLI include these dot directories that include a lot of detailed logs and information about their previous runs that you can use as helpful metadata to create additional tools on top of them. So if we look at, so you can see Claude is right here, Codex over here, and if I open this up, so just to scroll up here so you can see some more information. If you go into the sessions directory right here, today is October 2nd, and we can see the most recent run was right here. So if I were to open that up, you can see there's just a ton of, this was actually a pretty large feature request I just made. So there's a bunch of event logs in here, and if we open these up, you can look at the payload, see a bunch of useful metadata about that request. So this was a token count request. This kind of hidden behind the scenes event, but luckily it logs it so you can see it, which is nice. Here's an actual event message. You can see this was an agent reasoning message. So if we look up here in the logs, it looks like it might have gone out of context, but it would show up there. So this is basically what we're going to use for the CLI tool to actually determine how to create the quiz. So I'm going to switch back over here. And we'll just type LearnChain to get started. And you can see if we switch over, let's take a look at the configuration details real quick. So the max events, this is just basically going to take from your most recent event log, and you can see right here, here's the link, or here's the current one that we're in, which would be October 2nd. So if we look at this is just basically to make sure that we don't explode the context that we're passing to the LLM. So we're only going to pass the last 15 event logs, which is usually plenty, because we're actually going to, one of the things LearnChain does is it actually excludes some of those additional events that we saw, like the token logging, and just gets, anytime it actually wrote code to the project, it's going to capture that and then use that to create the quiz. So 15 is plenty of context about what's been written, what's been created, but you can go ahead and increase that or decrease that depending on your own needs. You can also set a minimum quiz question size, so if you want more quiz questions, you can increase that. And then you can switch back and forth from Claude Code or Codex. We were just using Codex, so I'll keep it there. You can also write out some additional output, so let's actually enable that so you can kind of see some of the additional artifacts that get created. And then you can choose your model. Right now I've only got GPT-5 Mini or GPT-5. GPT-5 Mini is plenty good for this task. And the first time that you run this, you want to set your API key. So I've already set that. I'll switch back over here. And if we actually open up the event session events, you can actually see here, in this case, is the actual functions that we're going to use to create the quiz. And so if you go through here, you can actually see here's some actual output that was created and written in order to implement this feature. So you can kind of just scroll through that and see some of the raw logs. You don't really need to do that, but just for if you're curious. Generate lesson is going to be what we want to run. So we'll run that. And you can also see right here, here's the link to the directory that we're going to be running. I'll run that. And this is going to find the most recent, as you can see, if we switch back over to the Finder, you can see that there's multiple files for today. So it's going to, and this is basically corresponds to which session you're running. So I ran one earlier, apparently. Looks like that was a pretty short session. And this is the most recent one. So it's going to pull your most recent session out of all the current days. Say you didn't do anything today, but you want to create a quiz based on something you wrote yesterday, it'll pull that. And one feature I want to actually implement is going to be a way for you to actually choose the specific event logs that you want to use to generate the quiz, because right now it's basically always going to pull the most recent session that you had, which is usually what you want, but it might be nice to be able to affect that. So we'll let this run. This usually only takes about 30 seconds or so, but I'll be right back. Oh, it's actually already done. All right. So here's a couple things. We've got, breaking this down, you can see there's 3 knowledge groups. So this is basically, we're going to break out the questions into different kind of categories, which are called knowledge groups here. And this first category is about enums, options, and results and pattern matching. And we've got 4 questions in that kind of group. So we can go ahead through here and answer this question. Let's see if I can get it. After the patch, what is the static type of the variable store result and handle AI success? And so you can see here, this is a little bit difficult to answer if I don't actually have much context on the code. So ideally, you're also looking at the code that was generated, that was created. So if we switch back over here, you could actually, hopefully you're kind of following along with the updates, or you switch over to the to your Git, and you can actually see the modified code, what was actually changed, so you can have a little bit of context on the actual question. I didn't do that, so let's see how well I can do without actually reading through the code. All right, I got it. So here we get a little summary on the answer, some specifics about success and failure in Rust, that I got the correct answer. And another nice thing here is if you actually look down here, we actually surfaces some resources for you. So if you didn't understand enums in Rust, for example, and we talked about options and result, you can actually open that up right here, and it'll take you directly to documentation where you can read more about it. And those are going to change per question. So let's go to the next question. You can see we have some new docs here, brand new question. There's the docs. And you can see this is still in the kind of enums group. So it's going to be kind of somewhat related to that and pattern matching. What does the pattern if let sum equals store accomplish? Unwraps the option? No. Executes the block only when the option is sum. Okay. So I need to read up on the docs on that one. I'm going to try to just go until the next category here, just so you can see that. All right, so we're on to our second knowledge group now. You can see this is now about modules and use declarations, and we've got 2 questions in that category. So that's the general quiz structure, how it works. If you continue kind of working, you can switch back over to Codex and do some more work, and then when you're ready to regenerate, you can just press the R key right here to regenerate the quiz. It'll create a whole new quiz for you, and based on your latest changes, and quiz you on that. So you can kind of go back and forth here very easily. Say I usually have 2 terminal tabs open. I'll write something in Codex, and then while I'm waiting for that, for the next kind of run to complete, I'll kind of go through the questions and read the code that is already written and make sure I've got a good handle on what's being done. And that's very helpful because it also, like I showed you, surfaces the resources, so you can kind of go deep on any topics that you're not as familiar with as you should be, or as that you feel you should be. All right, so I think that's a pretty good overview of everything. A few things I want to add, coming up here. I'm going to be adding a SQLite database so I can kind of track these responses, so you can actually get some history and maybe some nice dashboards and things to show how you're doing on the different knowledge categories as you're kind of working through them. Maybe do some sort of leaderboards and things. So if you have any suggestions or features you'd like to add, it's fully open source, it's available, so you're more than welcome. I'd love to have some assistance and have some people contributing to this. Or if you just want some features that you'd like me to implement, I'd be happy to do that. Go ahead and drop those in the comments for this video, or add it to the GitHub issues. Yeah, I think that's it for now. Thank you very much.